Hi everyone, Julie is here. I'm glad to see my channel here for Dice of Russian, and the theme of today's video will be Muses of the writer Mikhail Bulgakov. So let's begin. Let's first understand who the muse is. The muse is a person who awakens creative inspiration in artists or sciences. As a rule, these are women who surrounded by poets, musicians, artists, and inventors. The important thing is that the mere presence of this person inspired to small or big feats in the different fields of activity, and not necessarily the presence of the muse as such. Sometimes images and thoughts excite the accomplishment of creativity. Have you ever had a muse? Moreover, it should be noted that someone is inspired by harmony, and someone definitely needs to feel pain. And today we speak about the muses of the Russian writer Mikhail Bulgakov. The video about this writer you can see clicking here. So, what was special about these women? And did the writer create feeling happiness or pain? The first muse of the writer was Tatiana Nikolaevna Lappa. They lived together for 9 years.
The main prototype of the character of Anna Kirillovna in the story Morphine. Bulgakov and Lap's parents were against the relationship of young people. Days and nights the couple spent in walks around the city, revelry and entertainment. Their frivolous spending on pleasure alarmed relatives. The atmosphere and mood of the love story of Tatiana and Mikhail of the Kiev period, according to biographers, is illustrated by the romance "The Nightingale Whistled for Us All Night," specially composed for the moody days of the turbines, based on Bulgakov's novel The White Guard. Soon the young decided to get married, and their parents put up with it. Bulgakov and Lappa got married on April 26, 1918. A year before marriage, Tatiana became pregnant and had an abortion because of her husband's morphine addiction at that time. Tatiana decided on a second abortion. Bulgakov himself performed the operation on his wife. Bulgakov had no more children, but he adopted the son of his third wife from a previous marriage. His descendants are currently the legal heirs of the writer. In April 1924, on the basis of the writer's becoming famous hobbies for other women, Lappa and Bulgakov divorced. When parting, Bulgakov asked Tatiana not to tell anyone what she knew about him. Tatiana Nikolaevna Lappa spent the most difficult years of his life with Bulgakov. In the wilderness of Smolensk, Tatiana did not let her husband die from morphinism. In Vladikavkaz, Bulgakov came out of typhus, and in Moscow she spent the first hungry year together. Bulgakov helped his ex-wife financially from time to time. Later, Lappa met with the brother of Bulgakov's former friend, Alexander Pavlovich, and she left with him for the Irkutsk region. Their marriage was actual and was not registered. In March 1940, news came to her. Bulgakov had died. She arrived, came to the writer's sister. She told her that Bulgakov called her before his death. Later, her second unofficial spouse betrayed her. She began to work as a librarian, and she married a former friend of Bulgakov, lawyer David Alexandrovich Kiselgov. They were a close-knit family couple who were a model of old intelligentsia. Together with her husband, Tatiana Nikolaevna often visited the Tuapse library, followed the literary novelties. It was there that she first read Bulgakov's The Master and Margarita. Until the death of David Kiselgov, she almost did not communicate with the writer's biographers, but then gradually began to meet Bulgakov's scholars, who recorded her oral memories.
The portrait of Muse is a true friend who went through difficult years of Bulgakov's formation as a person. By the way, subscribe to my channel, mark the bell in order not to miss new release, and push the button if you like this video. The second muse of the writer Lyubov Evgenievna Belozerskaya. They lived together for 7 years.
Solid literary figure, studied at a private ballet school and subsequently performed in ballet troupes and Parisian theaters. Was married to Ilya Vasilievsky, a Russian journalist, feuilletonist. In early 1924, at a party in honor of the writer Alexei Nikolaevich Tolstoy, Lyubov Evgenievna, who had recently returned from abroad, met Mikhail Afanasievich Bulgakov. Acquaintance was the beginning and vigorous actually of the writer. The couple entered into marriage. The years of marriage with Lyubov Evgenievna are the years of the creation of the Days of Turbines, Crimson Island, Zoyka's Apartment. She translated books about Molière from French for Bulgakov. With her hand under the dictation of the writer, many pages of plays were written on the pages of the first edition of the novel, The Consultant with the Hof, which later became the novel The Master and Margarita, then still without Margarita. However, according to Sokolov, it was Lyubov Evgenievna who prompted Bulgakov to introduce the image of the main character into the future novel, The Master and Margarita. Lyubov Evgenievna was dedicated to the novel The White Guard, the story The Heart of the Dog, and the play The Cabal of Hypocrites, Molière. But the name of Lyubov Evgenievna is most strongly associated with the idea and birth of the play Running. Her lively stories about immigration and immigrants, about Constantinople and Paris, served as a source of inspiration for the writer when creating the play. But later difficulties began in family life, the consequence of which was an acquaintance with Nuremberg, who later became his mistress, and, surprisingly, this lady became a friend of Lyubov Evgenievna. The logical conclusion was a divorce from Belozerskaya. After the divorce, she devoted herself to a career and writing books about life with Bulgakov and her migration experience.
The portrait of the muse is partner, assistant, the engine of the couple, ideological inspirer who helped Bulgakov realize himself as a writer. The third muse of the writer, Bulgakova Helena Sergeyevna. They lived together for 8 years.
The main prototype of Margarita in the novel The Master and Margarita. Since childhood, she was very Russified. She even celebrated her birthday according to the Russian Julian calendar, thereby ignoring the Gregorian, European. Before Bulgakov, Helena was married twice, but even the second marriage, in which there was a quiet and calm family life, was not for her. She wrote to her sister,
"Sometimes such a mood comes over me that I don't know what is happening to me. I feel that such a quiet family life is not all for me. Nothing interests me at home. I want life. I don't know where to run, but I really want to. My former I wakes up in me with love for life, for noise, for people, for meetings. I am left alone with my thoughts, fictions, fantasies, unspent forces."
Helena Sergeyevna met the already well-known writer, journalist and playwright Mikhail Afanasievich Bulgakov at the Meisenk House of Artists in Moscow. Here is how she described this acquaintance.
"It was a truth Tuesday. Some friends made pancakes. Neither I wanted to go there nor Bulgakov, who for some reason decided that he would not go to this house. But it turned out that these people managed to interest both him and me in the composition of the inventees. Well, me, of course, his last name. In general, we meet and very close. It was fast, extraordinarily fast, at least on my part the love of lifetime. And then constant meeting followed. We met every day, and finally I prayed, and I said that I would not go anywhere, I want to sleep, and that Misha would not call me today. And went to bed early, almost at 9 o'clock at night. My sister Olenka, who did not approve of all this, woke me up. 'Go, your Bulgakov is calling you to the phone.' I approached.
'Get dressed and go out onto the porch,'
Misha said mysteriously and without explaining anything, only repeated these words.
Helena stepped out onto the porch. Misha White in the light of the moon stands at the porch.
He took my arm, and to all my questions and laughter, he puts his finger to his mouth and is silent. He leads across the street, leads to the Patriarch Ponds, brings him to a tree and says, pointing to a bench.
Here they saw him for the first time.
And again, a finger to the mouth, again silence.
At this time, Bulgakov wrote his most famous novel, The Master and Margarita, which he began in his previous marriage, but finally he decided on the prototype of the hero. Later, the second husband of Helena Sergeyevna found out about her love affair with Bulgakov. There were prohibitions and months apart to kill feelings. But this didn't happen. Helena asked her husband to let her go, and he took that step for the sake of the happiness of his beloved woman. Bulgakov married Helena immediately, the day after the divorce from his second wife. An interesting point is that the first wife of Mikhail Afanasievich, Tatiana Nikolaevna Lapa Kiselgov, said that Bulgakov told her more than once,
I must marry 3 times.
as if this was advised to him by Tolstoy, who considered triple marriage the key to literary success. Helena Sergeyevna recalled something else.
Allegedly, back in Kiev, a fortune teller told him to marry 3 times.
Be that as it may, both considered their union a foregone conclusion. Bulgakov gave Helena a power of attorney to conclude contracts with publishers and theaters about his works, as well as receive royalties. A year after the conclusion of the marriage, Helena Sergeyevna, at the request of her husband, began a diary, which she kept for 7 years until the last days of Mikhail Afanasievich's life. When reading the diary, one fact is striking. In the joint life of Helena Sergeyevna and Bulgakov, there was not a single quarrel. This is surprising, considering how difficult the circumstances were at times. Helena Sergeyevna devoted herself entirely to her husband and his work. She wrote under his dictation, retyped manuscripts on a typewriter, edited them, drew up contracts with theaters, negotiated with the right people, and dealt with correspondence. Her great merit is the preservation of the Bulgakov archive. She managed to reprint many of the manuscripts that were kept in a single copy. Thanks to her incredible energy, after the death of Bulgakov, many of his previously unpublished works were able to see the light, the main of which, of course, is the novel The Master and Margarita. In addition to working with the creative heritage of Bulgakov, Helena Sergeyevna was also engaged in translation, mainly in order to earn a living. She owns translations from the French novels by Gustave Aimard, Jules Verne, and the book by André Maurois, Lilia, or The Life of George Sand. In a letter to the writer's brother Nikolai Afanasievich Bulgakov, Helena Sergeyevna wrote,
I do everything in my power so that not a single line written by him leaves, so that his extraordinary personality does not remain unknown. This is the goal, the meaning of my life. I promised him a lot before I died, and I believe that I will fulfill everything.
The portrait of Muse is boundless love and devotion. So, every person in our life was not just like that, but for something. Famous phrase, besides every successful man is a great woman, to which Russian writer Pelevin continuation of this phrase. Besides every successful woman is betrayal of the man. Why exactly? Write your thoughts in the comments. Well, I said so much, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. See you in the next thematic video.